Community Beacon, Fridays at 6:30 EST, with your hosts Michael Seville and Joel Simmons. A channel whose focus is liberty. A place where the lessons discussed and taught will create openings to a more open and freer mindset. A mindset where you may reach the height of your potential and excel. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joel.
What's going on, brother? How are you doing?
Look like you were vibing. You were vibing a little bit back there. Looked like you were shaking off some moves. What's going on, my brother? Community Beacon, we're back in the place. Hello, hello, hello to each and every one of you that are out there that are catching us live, and also catching us on the replay. You should catch us live though. We have a lot of fun. We do a
Nice.
lot of we have a lot of fun. We do a lot of engagement. We like to hear what it is that you all have to say. And once again, for in any event, appreciate you guys. Um, I got the host with the most over there, Mr. Joe from the Tenacity Foundation, Joel Simmons, Elder Joel Simmons, the one and only. I like the hat. It's
Thank
a
you,
different
brother.
one.
You
It's
know,
a
this the staple hat, man. This is when we created the community beacon. Remember, this is it right here.
Oh, was it?
This,
Was it that one? You
this is
got.
the one, the only. Hey, 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 hey.
We were both instructed to put our hats on a little bit earlier before you got on the show.
Yes.
Um, so we appreciate that. Of course, we got Anna in the background that instructs us on what it is we do. I mean,
Get it, Anna.
we just listen. We get directed. We're the talent. She's the boss. She tells us what exactly is going on and how to move, when to cut, when to move it, etc. But once again, we appreciate. Let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. We've been having some fruitful conversations. This is the first quarter. First quarter's over. We're in the second quarter of the year. I do
Q2.
want to ask people. Here's a question for you guys. Something besides what we're going to be talking about tonight. Like, how's it going? Like, really, really, how's it going? I know a lot of us had our resolutions. This is the new year. We're in 2022. It does seem a little bit different. I almost feel like 2020 and 2021 were slightly the same year. But 2022 does seem to be a little bit different. Shouts
Jason
out to
Farland.
Jason McFarland. Yeah, I love
Jason.
Jason. So you get dressed like community because we appreciate it, brother. I appreciate Jason checking in. He comes in and we'll get into that part. Let's do some housekeeping. Let's do some quick housekeeping now that the guests are starting to roll in. Monday nights, people, 9 o'clock. They keep calling it motivational Mike.
What do you want to change it to? Come on, just give us the name, brother.
I don't really. I don't know. I don't know. Because 9 times out of 10, when I get on there, I'm just like this. I'm just laying down the truth. I don't know how motivational it is, but it's definitely, hopefully, it's getting you guys pointed in the right direction. A lot of the things that I'm implementing within my life as I continue to move and grow and progress. And so a lot of these things are shared on Monday nights. And what seemed to be last week was a little bit longer than usual. It was about 20 to 25 minutes. I had been doing 15. You guys got to understand, I'm up at, and I harp on it because it's true. I'm up at 3:15 and I'm going strong. And I have just enough energy and juice left for my 9 o'clock show. So sometimes you get 15 minutes out of me. Sometimes we may go on for 45 minutes. But I appreciate everyone who checks in there. And then of course we go on to the Wednesdays, right? Wednesdays we got It Starts With Me. Check out those episodes. I just recently watched, I guess it was a past episode. It wasn't the most recent episode with CJ, was it Badass Grandma?
Oh man, that woman is awesome. I like her.
Yeah. That young lady had a lot of energy, gave out a lot of information. Oh my gosh, when she spoke about her wake up call in 2002, when she thought that she was gonna, when her life was essentially, her health was taken away from her. Mm-hmm. She didn't know how much more time she had, and she realized that a lot of these things that we're not grateful for, you end up becoming grateful for. And not only that, you really start to pay attention to time. Shouts out to Kenyatta. I saw Kenyatta flash up across the screen short time ago. But check her out. And of course, I think the last episode, if I'm not mistaken, was that Marina's episode?
Yep, Marina.
Yeah, you do so many episodes. I mean, you got a lot of different dynamic people coming on the shows on Wednesdays at 12:30. also a podcast. Please, people, go check it out. Awesome interviews. Joe really gets into it. And that, brother, that's like your gift. Your gift is listening and kind of getting deeper with people and allowing people to express, things that they may not necessarily have expressed before. You get them to open up. They're so comfortable with you. And so that's what makes that show so special. Each and every Wednesday is 12:30 every week. You'll be enlightened by it. And speaking of enlightening,
hold on. Kurt Jordan.
Okay.
Next week.
That's next week.
Kurt Jordan. Y'all come in and check this guy out. This guy, he's got an awesome story. He runs, what is the business called again, Anna? This guy right here, Kong Academy. The Kong Academy. This guy right here, he's amazing, and he's putting something out there for the young people. By the way, I'm gonna have a new video coming out soon to feature, and it's going to be about this superhero program that we're doing out in the Glades, and it is fantastic, y'all. You're gonna want to check this out. You're gonna want to get this program. People are gonna want to get this program all over. Been talking to a lot of different people, but just to see, we got these young 11-year-old, 12-year-olds that are gathering together in the neighborhood, and they got these superhero costumes on. Mike, I'll tell you about it earlier, and they're like picking up trash. Let me tell you, I opened up the door. When I opened up the door, I was like, name some superheroes and everything. Anna put together this beautiful superhero thing. Matter of fact, we ought to let everybody see that, not here, but we'll put it on the YouTube. And it's beautiful, engaging, everything. The kids are like, that's Spider-Man. Oh, that's Miles Morales. Oh, that's and they're just naming Captain America, throw all these people. And so when we start breaking it down, we're like, so tell us some real life superheroes. And then it's like, all right, so now we're hitting up Rosa Parks, George Carver. I'm like, whoa, all right, come on, let's go. Martin Luther King. And we got all of these different superheroes. Then I start breaking it down even at a lower level. And I'm like, listen, how about, Miss Annie from the Glades? She's a superhero because, when we describe what a superhero is, she's doing good. She's sacrificing her time. She's helping other people. She's saving lives in the community. Y'all didn't think about that being a superhero. When they thought about that, they're like, boom, light bulb came on, right? Light bulb came on. So what can you do to save your community? They're like, I would take care of all the trash. I would feed the homeless. These are little 11-year-olds. And then what the Federation of Families did, Mike, is they started taking them out. So we got those young people, and we're like, all right, let's go out. Let's be superheroes. And that's why they start picking up their trash in the community. Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome. That's awesome. So shouts out. That'll be, can't wait to see that video and everything that we spoke about in regards to the Glades. Let's go, people. Community Beacon. We're live and we're ready to get going. Things I learned, part 1. I just saw Kenyatta shout something out across the screen. I'm looking at it now. Kenyatta says she's looking at my relationship with money and how much power I give it. Learning everything is all an illusion. Also focused on gaining depth to my work. Man, I'm so akin to Kenyatta right now. We both had some things happen in the last couple of years that were, very impactful in our walk. Walked along some of the same paths. She's a fellow Suncoast alumni like myself. And then there were, obviously, she went her way, I went my way, and then came back together. Actually, Kenyatta, I want to say that we crossed paths. I was working at the Drug Abuse Foundation in Delray, and you were working with the Department of Children and Families, if I'm not mistaken. So correct me if I'm wrong. And so I think I saw your name come across a couple of the census sheets in regards to working with clients there. And then, of course, the gratitude training, which was an awesome and powerful training that we both were able to take part of. When we're talking about transformational, something that's transformational, getting into some of these trainings, the gratitude training, I don't believe they're I don't think they're doing it anymore. After the pandemic, it's kind of akin to so a lot of experiential things that happen in that training. Um, it lasted a full year because I did part one, part two, and ML. So it was definitely powerful. Met some powerful people in there as well. And Kenyatta came through, so we share that. And then of course, what happened the last 2 years. So I'm glad I'm looking at it as I'm starting to really see your growth firsthand. And then you mentioned something here that I have to look at as a realtor, real estate person, having conversation with people out, buying real estate, starting to put assets away, starting to get into their financial literacy part of it, establishing a foundation. I mean, this is what real estate is all about. And now you're mentioning, I'm looking at my relationship with money, how much power I give it. And you can't imagine the amount of the amount of power that people give money, or even some dysfunctional relationships with money, which is a tool. Money is a tool. It's one of the tools that we use in life. However, some people are very closely attached to it. Now, I said that, but I'm not going to say that money, it's not important. The Bible say money answereth all things. So it's also one of the recurring themes within the Bible, and even people's relationship with money in the Bible. So I think it's very important. I'm glad that you're taking a look at that. Some of the things we learn and we grow from. Some people never learn to grow from it. Some people are 67 years old, still hiding money in their mattress. So it's great that you get to take a look at that. Learning everything is all an illusion. That's interesting. We're going to bring up some of these things during this show. So you're kind of walking down the path with us, and then focusing on gaining depths to my work. That's awesome. You know what I mean? If it's something that you're doing, and I know you're working in the community, in and around the community, and just getting deeper and deeper with it, Kenyatta, man, listen. If no one's told you today, I'm proud of you. Just know that I am proud of you 1,000%. We don't have to talk every day, every week, or even every month, but obviously we get a chance to cross paths on social media from time to time. I think I did call you. You didn't pick up the phone. I'm sure you were busy. But I'm definitely proud of you and physical growth as well. Because I see you in the gym getting it in too. I saw you lift that 135. So awesome, man. Awesome job. Man, I love our engagement. People who are following us, man. Jason McFarlane as well. I'm watching the brother as well. She said I call you back, no answer. But we'll get together. But a lot of people who are watching this show, I mean, are moving in the right direction. She's in the gym now. I'm glad you listen. You pick us as your go-to list in the gym. I appreciate that. All right, brother. Let's get into the show. As we go into things we're learning. Of course, this month is focusing on things that we, talking to our younger selves. Last week we pretty much got in depth, kind of just kicking around some ideas, and I know I'm going off in a soliloquy. What do you say, brother?
Yeah, I mean, you're right on it. Things that we've learned, and I love it because the thing about this is like looking backwards. Looking backwards and seeing what we will say to our younger self. What will we say to a younger us? And I think it's important, that we kind of mention how we have thought about this. I know that I've thought about it so many different times. I don't really want to say anything different to my younger self. I think about that movie Gemini Man, right? Have you seen that movie?
I haven't. That's Will Smith, right?
That was Will Smith.
Right,
Yeah. Well, hey, man, you know what? Listen, Will's going through some different things right now. People do things. People make mistakes all over the world. So whatever Will's got going on, my prayers are with him. You know what I'm saying? Prayers are with him, with Jada, Chris, the whole crew. It's all good. Just keep it moving, keep your head up, keep going forward. That's what it's all about, right? Even Will Smith, to quote him just a little bit, fall forward, fall fast, fall forward. So let's just keep it moving. Every time we get up stronger, right? So, but just thinking about that, because actually my little brother was on that show, was on that movie, Gemini Man. But the whole concept of there being, I don't remember what the character's name is. I just, Will, there's multiple Wills in this movie. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And Gemini Man, it makes you think there's two, but really there was more than two. There was like three, maybe even
Are you gonna
four.
give us a spoiler? Because I haven't watched it yet. Don't spoil it. Don't spoil
Okay, I won't spoil it. I won't spoil it then. I'll leave it alone. I mean, the movie's been out for a couple of years. you know, but the whole thing, I'll back out of it so you can enjoy it. The whole thing is being able to see, current version of yourself. I mean, wow. So my current version of myself at a younger age really is going to be Jonah. That's my current version. I mean, that's the closest thing. That's the young man growing up inside my household, and I'm captivated by his movement. I love it. I'm watching him and I'm watching him grow. And the thing about it, Mike, is that it's a difference because my girls, I love watching them grow, but they're little girls growing into young ladies.
Yeah.
My boy is growing into a young man, and I can impart so much on him and to him and with him that I could not do for my little girls. I can give them the wisdom, but there's certain aspects of a young lady and a woman. There's no way I could ever touch it. I can know about it. I can read it in a book, but that's as far as I can go. And we had that discussion. But my little boy is like, hey, listen, I know what it's like to grow up as a young man. I know what it's like to grow up as a black man, in this country. I know what it's like to be that minority. I know what it's like to have that type of mindset where you're seeing things in a different way than the average individual that's around you. And that's the way I feel about my little boy, is that he's got this thing going on inside of his mind. Intellectually, he's far advanced. Let me tell you this, man. I noticed something. He began a few years back to almost like, I want to say downgrade, but he began to play down his intellect, and he began to walk in this downgraded intellect. Like, he wanted to fit in with the people that were around him because he's like this genius type of little kid, right? And when I noticed that, it took me a couple of years to help pull him out of it. But it was like there was a tragic moment that happened in his life. And when that happened, it was like, boom, all of a sudden he just like played back. He played back and he stopped doing his schoolwork. He started getting into a little bit of trouble. He kind of threw his hands up to the world. And I recognized it because I'm like, this is a little man. I see what's going on. This thing happened, and afterward, you became this individual. And this individual has impacted everybody around you, including himself, And so when we start talking about, what we would say to the younger us, it's like, okay, here's my chance. That's little Joel right there.
You're right. And how? And for people to know, how old is Jonah?
Jonah's 11 now.
Mm-hmm.
He's 11, and there was a specific one event, and that's what the whole, when you were telling people to come on over and check out the podcast, that's what the podcast is really about. It's about people transversing these transitions in life and what it does for them, and the changes that can come about by making one good decision, how it can change the trajectory of your life.
Well, let me ask you a question. Since we're on that topic, and you saw Jonah go through that event, for you, and I'm sure there was a lot. There probably were multiple events. Can you share with us like an event that at around that age, at that 10, 11? Can you remember anything at around that 10, 11-year-old age of where that, something happened. I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly 10 or 11, but you know what I mean? Something around that younger age, a younger Joe walking around, that had an event. And if you go back and look at it, you say, man, this definitely kind of shaped some of the ways that I move forward with life.
So at the age of 13, at the age of 13, that was probably one of the most impactful ages of my life. I just thought to myself, you know what, forget the world. This was a huge decision. Forget the world. While I was coming up, 7, 8, 9, I was excellent in school. Excellent in school. I was so excellent in school, Mike. I would finish my work, tests, everything before everybody. My mother actually would send like Transformers in my book bag, or I would bring them. Maybe she didn't put them in there.
I don't know how they got.
She probably did, right? So, but I would finish all my work, and then the teacher would always have trouble with me because after I finished my work, I wanted to engage with somebody. So I just play with the Transformer. That's how I kept my mouth shut. But somewhere in between that, 11, 12, 13, I had a lot of different events going on. And when I hit 13, my mother was disciplining me. And when she disciplined me, I just got this attitude like, forget her. Okay. You want to go that route? Let me show you what I can do. And I was heavily influenced by music. Heavily influenced by music. And I think you mentioned this earlier in our pre-talk, or just our convo earlier about how so many people, in our age category were influenced by music. And there came a time when we went from hip hop to gangster music. And that was a drastic change because hip hop was all love, Kid and Play,
LL Cool J, Cool Mo D,
J,
Crisscross,
Heavy D and the Boys, when you had all those people just like dance, come on, baby, move your body, all that type of stuff. And it went from that to the Thuggish Ruggish Bone.
Yep.
That was a big change, man. And so 13 years of age, that being my influences, and my father, my stepdad at that time was across the seas. It wasn't that he wasn't in the house, it's that he was called into all these different wars, military man. He was called into all these little wars and stuff like that. Being across the seas, it was just me and mom's at the house. And mom did her best to raise a young man. But moms, listen, boys will give you hell.
And the handbasket.
Yeah. So I made that change, and that's kind of like my little bit of story, just a little bit.
Yeah. And I so it's interesting because now we're watching these kids, because Elijah, of course, just turned 12. And I didn't give him happy birthday to Elijah last week. March 30th turned 12. Of course, Paul turned 1 on what was it, Saturday, the 2nd. So shout outs to my two little guys that I look at them like, oh my God, this is me. They were teaming up on me the other day. Paul is in his walker and was walking around and then him and Elijah were chasing me down. I can't even eat a sandwich in the house in peace anymore. I look down and there's two little boys looking at me eating my sandwich, and Elijah's the vocal one because he can talk. He says, "Can I have some?" And Paul is looking at me. He's like, "Eh." That means that he needs it too. And so he's also going through the same similar stage Jonah's going through. Definitely influenced by music. And I'm listening to him like, oh man, this guy is just like me. I can see it and I can tell. And same thing. I think at around that time, you had I think I don't know the exact age, but I know I had to be 9, 10, 11. had my father was in and out of the house. And I mean, he come for like a weekend and he'd be gone, and for months on time or whatever. And every time he used to leave, I used to cry. Every time he came, I used to cry. I ain't seen him for months. He came for like a weekend, and then he'd be gone. That was his, that was his thing. And I can never forget that one time when he left, and I remember I went into my room and I went to the closet and I'm like, I'm never crying again. I think he mentioned something to me. He said something like, "Oh, you're the man of the house when I'm gone." And then when you tell a child something like that, like I took it literally. Like now I'm the man. I don't know what a man is supposed to do. Not now what a man. Through those shows, through TV, through music, whatever. So now it's like I'm the man, and I think that changed for myself. Just like you, my mother was raising 3 kids. She had me as the boy at the time. Because Mark wasn't even there at the time, so definitely I was definitely under 10 because Mark is 10 years younger than I am, and so it was like now I became this man. So what happened for me at that time was this masculinity of what I perceived it to be, and that also was the music, because this is what a man does in the music. This is what a man does in the movies. This is what masculinity and men look like. Not to say that a lot of the stuff was wrong, but I definitely was overly, it was, I definitely erred on the side of that, and very disciplined. Around that time I became very, very disciplined, which carried over to now. So some of the things served me from that time, right? And then some of the things that I had to, as I got older, I had to take a look at it and said, okay, Mike, you don't necessarily need to be that abrupt. You don't necessarily need to be that strict. You can have emotions. You can have feelings in certain regards. But once again, that 9 to 13, and I mean, you're always experiencing things, but definitely 9 to 13 definitely plays a part into it. And that leads into some of the things that we were talking about. I think one of the terms that we brought up during our pre-show, which was yesterday, was you brought up lucidity, and we kind of started talking about that because, especially from and it came from when we were talking about the perception. It initially started from the conversation about how we perceive these things back in the day, because what we do know is that the way that we perceive things, our interpretation of things weren't necessarily what exactly took place. Right, like we can go back and have that process. And I don't want to play. The video was so lame. I was looking at the basketball video that we pulled up yesterday, and we can go ahead and play it because I want people to see like how our minds can play tricks on us, especially when we're looking back over the years. And this one is not even going to be a yearly thing. So, and if you don't mind.
Man, I counted 12.
I said 13. How much were there?
13.
It was 13?
Yeah, but I didn't see the moonwalking bear.
I didn't. I don't think I see the moonwalking bear either. Oh, I see him now.
I see him. But okay, so the trick is that they had us to focus on those in white. And I think I turned away for one moment. I was like, doggone it, I missed a little piece of that. And then the question came, I just knew it. I guess that's the reason why I missed that one, because I started thinking, I was like, dog, you know what I know they're going to ask me about the guys in black. So I started to count the guys in black, how many times they were passing the ball. And I probably missed one of those. And at that time, a moonwalking bear came through, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't even see the moonwalking bear. Okay, so there's a lot of things. Essentially, there's a lot of things going on, and so when we go back and we look back through time, like you just said something recently. You said, I don't know if my mother put the Transformers in the book bag or I put the Transformers in the book bag. Essentially, the Transformers got there. But, possibly, your mother put in there, you put in there. We don't know. The way that we go back and we tell this story, and
Right.
and the way that we go back and we look at it is through this, especially from this adult lens. Then there's emotions attached to all of that, right? I brought up the story about my father and me, and when I think a lot of things changed with me, and then there's a lot of emotions that are brought back when you have that conversation. Even as an adult male, we're having these conversations. We're constantly somewhat, for those of us who are somewhat attempting to progress anyways, we're constantly experiencing the past, and we're experiencing it through our lens, from our perception, from our vantage point. And I think that's how you started bringing up lucidity. So you want to talk a little bit about that, brother?
I mean, yeah, when it comes down to lucidity, I think that's definitely key, especially for us now. At the ages that we're at, it's a lot easier to understand what we are expressing. Making things more intelligible for us. It's definitely a lot easier. But as an 11-year-old, 12-year-old, it's not as clear.
Right.
At 11 years old, especially for a little boy, for girls, maybe a little bit earlier, you start to go through puberty. This is a big stage inside of a young man's life. He's got body development going on. He's got cognitive development growth. He's got social development growth. He's got emotional growth. That's all happening right now. And this is huge. So when you mention that you have like this emotional remembrance, there was something that was very visceral that you can remember in this entire thing. And I do also. I can remember the emotion. And it's funny because you also mentioned that you went to a closet. You're like, I'm not crying anymore. I could feel that, because I was the exact same way. I was like, what? She gonna be like that? All right, that's it. And it's just like, there's this huge, I'm a man. I'm gonna make this decision right now. That's my word. Try me now. And that's the type of thing that's going on. So getting back to the whole subject of today, it's like things I would say to my younger self. Well, I don't want to change that. There's some things that happened because of that change, but I don't know which part of that. I don't know which part of that gave birth to Aaliyah, Sienna, or Jonah. I have no idea. If any part of that were to change, what if I didn't have one of those children? What if I wasn't married to Kathy? I don't know. I don't want to change that right now. So, but what I can do for my little boy is I'm watching him, I'm looking at him, and everybody else may not be thinking like I'm thinking when they're dealing with their children, but I'm dealing with my child. Like, you know what? He right now is making some really big decisions that I can't see.
Mm-hmm.
He's battling something that I don't understand. And it will be years from now before any of us truly know what is going on inside of his head right now. So I'm moving extremely delicately because my vantage point is 2020.
Right.
His vantage point is here and now.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is looking backwards and forward at the same time in his life. So everything that I do, brother, is like my objective is not to solve his problems. My objective is to provide him with true clarity of what he is going through. My objective is to give him the understanding of what the decisions that he is making and what the impact may be. This is what's going on right now inside my household and what I'm doing with this with my son. And this is, going back to this partnership with the Federation of Families and with the Glades initiative. these 11-year-old children, the impact that I desire to bring to them is the same thing, because some of these kids are talking about, if I was a hero, I would feed the homeless. Mike, what does that sound like to you? You get what I'm saying?
Right, right.
From your perspective, from my perspective, when an 11-year-old says, if I was a hero, I would feed the homeless, that's impactful to me. You know, I'm not trying to implicate, I'm not trying to push anything. I'm just saying this is the word that come out their mouth that tells me something, that gives me an idea of something that needs to happen, something that may need to have some change, something that may be institutionalized, something that may be chained that needs to be broken.
And I will err just on the side of statistics and results. Statistics,
My
excuse me.
man.
On the side of statistics, that you know, in the last 20 to 30 years, we see that, you know, especially in certain communities, and even more prevalent in other communities than others, we got 70 to 75% of fathers not being in the household. 70 to 75% of kids are being born out of wedlock, and it, you know, it is what it is. And so the importance of both parents being in their children's lives, for the ability for them to see and to experience, because while you're nurturing from this side with Jonah, from that thought process of you being in Jonah's shoes, that's a young Joe kind of thing. Then on the other side, you have the mother, the Kathy, who's nurturing her from what he needs from that aspect of it. You know what I mean? Because they're both needed, right? They're both needed. And so, and then you spoke a little bit further in regards to what you're out there, to where initially the thought process was being a Spider-Man. When you see these superheroes on TV, they're saving people, they're saving lives, but in this huge capacity, you know, flying from building to building, having these superpowers. And then you were able to come in with your program and break it down from the standpoint of, to now they're thinking, I'm going to feed the homeless. You know what I mean? That makes it so much more relatable. Because here you got these kids, and I'm sure, you know, when I was younger, and I was just finished watching The Last Dance, which was interesting, because growing up I did not like Michael Jordan, just because I was an Orlando Magic fan, and things happened with my Orlando Magic, right? That was traumatic. If I could name some things that were traumatic, the Magic getting swept by the Houston Rockets was traumatic for me. But you know, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, we're thought to say that we're going to the NBA, we're going to the NFL. We don't even know the research. 1 out of 1%. Let me see. Anna Rosenthal's.
Yeah, that's beautiful. She said, I agree. Kids need to see both sides of parents' jobs as parents. Having one less parent sometimes can create a hole in a child's life. Right. That's a powerful statement.
1,000%.
Powerful statement.
1,000%. I'm going to err on the side of, it's not sometimes, it always creates a hole. It would be the, you know, there's probably one out of a million who says this didn't change, but it did. Anyways, both parents need to be in the child's lives. But you breaking down, see, I know now, you breaking down you breaking it down. Because imagine back then, if you're saying, like, listen, you don't necessarily need to be an NBA player, NFL player in order to be this. You can be a businessman, and that makes huge impacts because you're bringing jobs back to the community. That's just as important as the entertainment side. At some point in time, like, we're thought that it's just, you know, especially in our community, it's like entertainment and sports, and we don't think about a lot of things that go behind it, because just as powerful as Michael Jordan was, because he was on the big stage, and Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen, when you watch that, and here's this, and for those of you who haven't watched it, you need to watch it. You got to look at the general manager, Jerry Krause. I don't know if you got a chance to watch. Did you ever watch The Last Dance with
No. I
Okay.
haven't seen it yet.
So just as important was this general manager, Jerry Krause. He was a pivotal piece to that entire thing. And you got to watch it to understand his vantage point of it. And so it's like there's all these different avenues in which you can be that superhero, you can be that, and it takes people to come in and show them that. It takes people to have that pivotal impact on it. And in this case, from, like I said, males and male role models that are close, that we're not just watching this Michael Jordan athlete, nothing wrong with Michael Jordan and what he done, very impactful to the culture, but the culture of having, you look at Michael Jordan, his father was so pivotal in his life, and throughout. That was his best friend. That guy was there for him until, unfortunately his passing. So it's like, these different things that we get a chance to, now we go back, like you said, it's 2020, and allowing Jonah to make his decision, because what you don't want to do is live vicariously through your child. You want to, you want to guide him, you want to show him, you want to be a testimony for him, but it is their lives and they're going to make that decision. And oftentimes you got those overbearing parents that can push them away. However, and we spoke about this before, fathers are what do we call them? The lamppost. I think that was the analogy we used. The fathers are the lamppost where the mothers are the flame. The fathers are their structure. And now you get to be in your child's life and do it as well.
I would also say, I guess that's Anna threw up this quote that said, I don't believe in telling a child what they should think. I believe in teaching children how to think clearly, process appropriately, and judge intelligently. And so, that's my belief. I think it's actually a good time that she threw that up there, because that's exactly where you were heading. That's, that was the statement that you were arriving to. And I think that's crucial. I think it's crucial, man. I would venture out to say that a father can actually be a little more than just a lamppost. I agree with that the whole structure piece of it, but I think that there's a flame, and maybe I'm just speaking of myself, but I definitely bring a flame, brother. I bring a flame. I ignite an energy. That's my purpose. It's not just my passion, it's my purpose. My purpose when I walk into the room is to ignite myself into such a flame that somebody else catches fire to, because when I think back for what my mother did, when there was the absence of that male figure, thank you, Anna, for that absence of a male figure, then, I recall there being certain men that just impacted my life in such a way. And I always have thought about that, because part of my philosophy when I was like 20 some years old is, and I shared it with you before, and you gave me a corrective statement, which I enjoyed and I think about to this day. But part of my philosophy was the same amount of time it takes for a man or a person to dig a hole for themselves is the same amount of time that it takes for them, is possibly the same amount of time that it takes for them to get out of it. And then you had mentioned to me, except they get a coach, except they get somebody in their corner that is able to guide them to traverse through these different courses of life, because we'll dig ourselves a hole thinking that we're working on something. And when we look up years later, we put ourselves in our own burial spot. We may not even be able to get out. You're looking like Jeremiah down inside of the dungeon of dungeons, hoping for the rags and the cloth to come down to lift him up out of the jail cell, hoping for that type of thing. But in essence, if we take the time to gather consulting, coaching, mentoring, and this is at an adult age, we can make these decisions, things will work out. However, if I'm looking back, talking to my younger self, I'm going to provide it right now. And so that means I had to change. I had to look at my parenting differently, because I have to look at it as I must be impactful every single time my children see me. I must be impactful. I must be able to leave a lasting impression, because what if I die tomorrow? Now, y'all know I'm here to live for 131 years of age. Anyone that's been following us, I know I've said it before. That's my prayer. 131 years. I plan on being here. But if I got to be a flame. So this is where maybe, Mike, the culture of fathers simply being the structure, the rigid structure in my household, I began to change that. So now I'm not just the lawgiver, but I'm also intentionally, I am the flame. I'm the fire. I'm like the Olympics that just doesn't die. The entire time. When you look up, that flame is still lit. Run your race. Run your race, Jonah. Run your race, Elijah. Run your race. Run your race. You know what I'm saying?
And I mean, once again, we go back to the because that's a very powerful statement, and we go back to which might be the next step, and exactly in where we're headed. And when I'm just talking about as a community, as a I mean, the show's called Community Beacon. It goes without saying. So it all comes back. It all comes back to this, right? Well, and then a lot of the stuff we're going off of, because once again, absence of a father, the father role model in so many households, it's starting to become a West. I mean, it's our community tends to be the canary in the coal mine, but it's a Western culture thing as well. It's a huge Western culture thing. You know, we just, our community tends to take the brunt of it. So this may and all be that step. I mean, and when we talk about legacy, we talk about, blazing this path, Justin blazing this path. So it's in the words that we're using to move forward. So for you to make that connection to it and for you to embody that is very, very important. It's not just enough for us to be, the drill sergeants. You know what I mean? Not to say that we are the drill sergeants, but it's not enough for that. But it's also for us to show the younger ones, whether they're male or female, this is what you living your purpose and your passion looks like. This is what it looks like. And in case something happens, and this is part of the reason why we created the show, you can go back and look at it and say, hey, this is what they were on. This is what they spoke about. This is what they talked about. This is what they embodied. This is what they envisioned. And they can move forward with that. And God grants us the time, if God grants us the ability to live to see it come to fruition, then all praise be to the highest. But I totally understand. I totally understand that. I love the way that how you put it there. 1,000%. 1,000%.
I want to see if Anna can put this up for us. Maybe she can go ahead and present this, because here's the thing. You started going to like the statistics of things, right? 18.4 million children. That's 1 in 4 without a biological step or adopted father at home. Mm-hmm. This is the crisis in America. And I like the way you did that, because sometimes, when we're looking at things, we look at it through one eye point. But remember, it's all about vantage point, right? We're talking about vantage point and how we see these things. So when a child doesn't grow up with a father, or when there's absence of a father, there's some things that happen. They got a 4 times greater risk of poverty. 4 times. They're more likely, this comes from the National Foundation of these statistics come from the National Fatherhood Initiative, right? That's where they come from, NFI. They're more likely to have behavior problems. They're 2 times greater risk of infant mortality, more likely to go to prison, more likely to commit crime. They are 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen, young ladies, more likely to face abuse and neglect, more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol. They're 2 times more likely to suffer obesity, 2 times more likely to drop out of school. What is going on? I mean, this is huge, right? This is big, man. We're talking about something some changes that need to happen, changes that need to happen. And if we can help somewhere along the way, listen, the first one that you help, there's an old saying, sweep around your own doorpost before you go sweep around somebody else's.
Help starts at home.
And then spreads abroad.
Yeah.
So now check this one out, Mike. When you have the father there, then the statistics, same organization, right? Children with involved fathers have a strong foundation for child well-being. And that's what you're talking about, the lamppost. Strong foundation. They're at lower risk for being for a host of poor childhood outcomes. And then just read some of this stuff, read what's going on. All of these things began to change just by us being inside of the life. Now, what are we doing while we're in that life? How are we affecting it? Be impactful, y'all. Be intentional, y'all. Now, let me give one more. Right? One more, because I want to share this piece, and this answers Anna's piece. This answers Anna's piece. Because she was talking about having both parents. All right. So mothers reap a host of benefits when fathers are involved on pregnancy and raising their children. How do you think that the effect is going to be when dads and moms are working together for children's sake? Like, we have to start thinking about that as families, as men. And I love the way Mike has said it for months on end. And this is not just a months on end. It's not just a community beacon thing. Just the way Mike talks. I'm talking to the fathers. I'm talking to the men. That's it. That's your words, right, Mike? Brothers, men, we have to think about this type of stuff before we go out there and have these children. Thank you, Anna. We got to think about this type of thing. There was a long time ago, we used to strap up, and I'm not talking about, having a gun on our side. I'm talking about when you get ready to go and do your thing, you have practicing safe sex. I guess I'll put it that way. But don't produce a child. Don't produce a child if you're not ready to take care of a child. If you're not ready to be committed to the woman that's having the child. Oh, I might be stepping on toes out there. I don't mean to, but if it is, it is what it is.
If it fits, you say if it fits, it ships.
That's exactly what I say. If it fits,
it ships. Well, here's my take on it. Obviously, I have 2 children. I'm not with the mothers.
To me.
Yeah. So we're at an interesting time. We're at an interesting time in our civilization, and there's a lot of mitigating factors, a lot of things that have led up to where it is. At the end of the day, we still need to take responsibility. We still need to do what's in the best, do what it is that we need to do to stay and be involved in that child's life. Thank God that as we continue to move forward, there's a lot of laws that are changing in regards to family law. And brothers, if you are having an issue, please reach out to me. Let's have that conversation. We need to have a lot more of these conversations, and we need to put the onus on ourselves. And as a man, if you make the bed, you have to sleep in it. If you make the bed, you have to sleep in it. You know, and you need to make the adjustments. And one of the things that, you know, and I speak to a cousin of mine. We speak almost every morning at about 6 o'clock in the morning. You know, we speak at about 6 o'clock every morning, and we both are talking about just things are changing, and you have to change with the times, and you have to be aware of what's going on. You can no longer operate from the standpoint of yesteryear. You can no longer operate from the standpoint of it being so traditional, because we aren't living in those traditional times. We're living in a time where the odds are against you, and you can't pout about it. You have to move on. However, looking at those stats that were just brought up recently, we know how impactful and powerful it is. And no matter how much the people that you may have been with or you thought was going to be different, you need to, no matter how difficult they may make it for you, you got to do what you got to do. You chose as well, fellas. You chose as well. Have a quick pity party. Every now and then you can feel sorry for yourself. Every now and then you can, and it's okay. It's okay to be frustrated. Frustration is a part of it, right? But at the end of the day, if you made a decision, you allowed certain things to be those things to be taken out of your hand and roll the dice. You rolled the die. So you have to go from that point on, man. It's a different world. We have to talk to each other about it and inform people about it, because I'm definitely going to inform my younger ones about it, because no one really had that talk with me about it. You know, so it's just, you got to move on. And now that I have that experience and I took the hard knocks, you know, hopefully, and this is not just in this situation, it's in any situation, because we've went through a lot of the things that a lot of our sons will probably go through in life. And we're just hoping that because we're there and we can share some wisdom with them, that they don't necessarily they can skip that step, you know, because we are the mentors and the counsel, you know, wise parents counsel. We're the wise parent. We're the counsel that we need to give to our children. So that's that. You just got to be there, brothers. You got to be. I don't know what it takes, but oftentimes what happens is, especially us as men, we tend to bottle it up and let things go supposedly undisturbed, and it just gets worse and worse. And then that's that hole that you're digging. Here's another quote for you. When you find yourself digging yourself a hole, when you figure it out, just stop.
Yeah. There you go. Stop right there.
Yeah, just stop. I don't know. You might have got 3 feet. You might have got 6 feet. You might have got 10 feet. Ooh. Wherever you at, stop. And then we need to figure out how to get ourselves from under that, man. So that's my take on it. That's from my vantage point.
That's beautiful. And you know, and Mike, man, I mean, you're a great dad. I mean, 100% a great father. You know, 100% active, grooming his children now, you know, and just, I mean, I love it. I watch your show on Mondays and I see all of the care, if you want to see Mike at his most compassionate moment, see him when he's around his children.
Oh Lord, I'm telling you, if they had a camera up here, they see the dance contest. They see we have a good time. We have such a good time that Paul does not want to go to sleep. He gets here, he wants to stay awake, as long as he's just like, if I go to sleep, I'm going to miss something. I don't know what Elijah and my dad might do. I don't know what my brother, because we have a good time. We have a good time. Us, the boys are having a good time here. And I appreciate that compliment, brother. And like I said, it's not easy. If I sat down here and told you that it was easy, and it's not easy, I can almost, know that it's not easy on Joe's side, being in the house with his son. It's, being a father takes what Joe spoke about earlier. It takes being intentional. and man, we supposed to be talking about things we learned, but we
But
learned.
this is it. We're talking about it because at the end of the day, it's like, what will we tell our younger self? And we're talking about, listen, forget trying to tell your younger self. Tell your child now.
Yeah.
Right? Person, place, time, event. Now. Tell them now. And whatever you would tell your younger self, if you ain't got a child, then if you got some good nuggets, like Mike just said, you said wise parents counsel. How about this? Wise fathers counsel. If that's who we are, I mean, somebody out there needs to patent that thing and create a group and just bring people together all over so that fathers can start talking. Because if you aren't doing that for your child, or you don't have children, then you need to do that for your nephew. You need to do that for your community. You need to do that in your church. Men, we need you. Stand up.
Yeah. We and be more vocal about it. And I think this generation changes it. There was a 20-30 year gap, maybe a little bit longer than that. We're in 2022. So it was like a 30-40 year gap of where you know we sat back. I think a lot of men sat back, and I think we also were doing good in the community. Most of us just weren't gloating about it. A lot of people took on children or took on other children, you know, from that vantage point, and did what they could. And even from the stepfather vantage point, there was a time when stepfathers were very respected, being able to take on, you know, helping out with someone else's child. And a lot of that has fell to the wayside. A lot of men are being taken advantage of, and because oftentimes we stay silent. And we're not reaching out. And this is interesting. I just had a Bible study on Wednesday, and here's the thing too, because they reached out to me as well. They said, "Hey, who's your accountability partner?" And I think I kind of suckered out on it. I was like, well, you know, I talked to a couple of people I do count Joel as an accountability partner. But when they asked me, my mindset kind of went to like what I'm doing in business. I got a couple of accountability partners. We talk every other day. But it was them reaching out. And it was me batting the hand away. Now, you know, being cognitive about it, because we as men tend to have a source of pride, a source of ego, that, hey, I can be an island. I can do it on my own. And that can get you, because, you know, no man is an island. And this is on both sides. Women the same way. Chris brought up a point, and I get into the women. I don't, you know, obviously I don't want to speak certain things I don't want to speak on because I haven't experienced it. But we have a way of saying that these are strong women. These are strong women. And a cousin of mine has mentioned that maybe we need to stop using the word strong. And even Dick Gregory spoke about it too, from back in the day. That great advocate, comedian and civil rights advocate. He spoke about it. He said, why are we calling them strong? You know, that may not necessarily be the word for it. He said the correct word should be resilient. Our mothers, you know, and I know your mother and definitely my mother were resilient, you know, but once you start taking on this strong thing, then a lot of stuff we spoke about in wellness, when we spoke about stress, etc., your people's attempts at being strong, all of a sudden you start to get these unknown illnesses. I spoke about it because you want to be strong. Same thing with men. You want to be the strong man. So you interpret that of just holding these things in, and then certain things start to happen, or it might be a time when you just can't hold it in anymore. You know, and then you get the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. These conversations, and we're getting pretty deep on this one. These conversations are the conversations that we need to have amongst all of us in the community, because we now have, you know, we're at the age where we can take that look back, that 20-30 year prayer view, and say, okay, as we move forward, which you brought up earlier today, I am that 20 year looking back, because now I can take that 20 years and it's forward thinking, you know, because hindsight is 2020. Let's try to get that 20, you know, that vision going, moving forward, because we've seen what we did. And then of course, being able to talk to our children about it, so that, you know, prayerfully, they, what is it? That's the Bible verse, isn't it? A wise child takes on counsel. Is that what it is?
Oh, okay, yeah, Proverbs,
Yeah.
Proverbs 1 and 5. Proverbs 1 and 5. You know, man of understanding takes accept wise counsel.
Yeah. So we are in some exciting times. We're in a time of where we can actually reach each other. Once again, we have these conversations. You know, we Joel and I have these conversations. We sit back and we'll have a conversation if we have the time, if time allows it, for hours talking about certain, you know, these things, and kind of. But this is, you know, and you all might have it as well. That's why we invite you to have these conversations within the chat. Give us the engagement, because these things need to get out so that as we move forward. The other day, I was leaving the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning. The children are our future. It's not just us all. These are the people. These are the people that are going to be taking care of us, are going to be taking care of the world, and a lot of it is going to come from the examples that we set and the information that we convey to them. How are we communicating to them? We can't dismiss them, because at some point in time they're going to be running the world, and we're just going to be watching what's going on. And hopefully we set a good enough example to where we're, you know, and I think we will. Not I think, I know we will.
Yes, we will.
Continue to have these good conversations.
Yeah, we will. Because, I mean, we are accountability partners. I mean, Mike, listen, y'all don't know. Mike cut me up for the last couple of days. A butcher. Gee whiz. Y'all thought he was the best. I call him the king of real estate, but I don't know. I'm about to change his name. You always want to change his name of his Monday show. I'm going to call him the butcher. Because he's been slicing and dicing, you know. But I love it, because you know, listen, Mike, I come to you, man, when I just need some good business sense, because you don't always give what you have. And I know that. The situation has to present itself. So you don't always give it. But man, sometimes when you'll say something, because no matter how good it is, you're always thinking one step further. And when you take it in, you're looking one step further. And I just love that, you know. I love that. So, I mean, man, you cut me up a little bit. And I said, bro, really the ointment. All right, come on. Let's go. Throw some dirt on that thing. All right. I like it.
I asked the brother today, I said, hey, brother, would you allow me to give you some feedback?
Yeah, you knocked me off my horse. What is, man? What Mike been drinking? What is going on?
Allow me to give you. Can you allow me to give you some feedback? And you're right, because there's a conversation I had with Beethoven recently, and you know, hey, the Lord has blessed me with the ability to kind of discernment and kind of to see. Like this, he gives me the ability to see, and it's just and a lot of it's just based on past, right? The best forecast of the future is based on past performance. That's the saying. However, the Lord has blessed me with these certain things, and there was a certain time, and I was talking with a therapist once, and he said, Mike, the situation is that you're seeing things from the mountain. You're on the mountain and you're looking down, so you see the rain cloud coming before the people in the valley see the rain cloud, and you're from the top, you're shouting out, it's raining, you know, make preparations for it. And then it rains, and some people may not necessarily have made preparations for it. And then he says, Mike, and then you get upset about it, and then you go into your own thing. And so you know, you go back in because you get mad because you say, listen, I've been telling you. It's almost like the Noah, right?
Yeah, man, I'm about to call you Noah. You got to it before.
I've been telling you, I saw the rain clouds coming. You need to prepare for it. And he said, Mike, you cannot be upset with the way that people choose to take on information or what they choose to do with it. You can just pass on the information. You You communicate the information, and you communicate it as clearly and as effectively as you can. And whatever someone, it's the same thing we're doing with our kids. You know, we can pass on that information and communicate as clearly as we can. Of course, we're so emotionally attached to it because it's our child. You know, if there's a speed bump, we want to alert them to this speed bump. But you have to give that advice. You got to kind of be unattached from it. That's the difficult part, and then allow it to happen, right? And because these things are coming and going. So I appreciate at least you listening to me. You know, that I try to hold. A lot of times I'm not telling people. I remember someone else said, "Man, you'll see somebody walking off the cliff and you won't say anything." I said, "Nah, I told them that 30 paces ago that it's a cliff."
Keep up.
30 paces ago it's a cliff. You done fell down the cliff. I told you 30 paces ago. I can't be attached to that happening. But it's a balance, and every day I'm learning how to communicate more effectively. That's what I love with me going through the sales process and the sales understanding and learning, especially when a powerful thing, and I use it with my children now, is I'm always thinking about the DISC profile. For those of you who don't know what a DISC profile is, it tells you that tends to be the type of personalities. There's 4 of them. You know, there's the driver, there's the influencer. The S is sociable, but we tend to say amiable. And then the C is conscientious, but we tend to say that those people are analytical. But it's DISC if you all get a chance. And you all need to figure out what you are first. And then here's the thing. Everybody's going to tell you they're a driver. When you look at the stats, which furthermore proves I'm analytical, when you look at the stats, only 6 to 9% of the people in the world are drivers, right? We can access these different personalities when the time happens, or some of us under pressure, we can change somewhat, but for the most part, we're one. But people, true drivers, 6 to 9% are drivers. The majority of people are amiables, and then you have the influencers, and then there's a lower percentage of people who tend to be analytical. And so when you look at that and you know who you are, and then you kind of look at other people, your kids, Joel, if I'm talking to Joel, or Beethoven, what Beethoven is, you use that in order to communicate more effectively. So that might be the one of the prayer views, because the Bible also says, know thyself. So one of the things is to understand who you are. Are you a driver? Well, if you're a driver and your son or your daughter is amiable, you can't talk to her the way that you would want them to talk to you. Just because you're bare to the bones and results oriented, you can't drive them to death. That's not the way that they're going to interpret it. You're going to get a lot of crying. You're going to get a lot of, okay, whatever. And they're still going to do whatever they want to do. So beware of what your communication style is, and more importantly, how other people's communication styles are. Because that way, to be the most effective we can be is to do it that way. And I'm talking a lot. What do you say, brother?
No. I'm enjoying it. I definitely have a couple of things that I want to mention, because earlier you had mentioned something, and I wanted to go back to that. But I definitely enjoyed this whole understanding yourself. I think self-awareness is important. It's important. And getting back to the 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, looking back 20 years, whatever it is, looking forward, understand that at the age of puberty, especially for young men around that age of 11, the teens, they are learning themselves. Mm-hmm. So it's not about knowing themselves. They are learning themselves. Yep. So what you are doing right then is extremely impactful. You may not see the results. And I'm looking back at my own self. What those men, when my mother got me into these rites of passages types of programs and different things like that, there's a chance she could not see that I would end up becoming the individual that I am today. There were many people. I remember someone. I won't mention his name because he came back and he said I was wrong. I was wrong. I'll mention his name because he came back and he complimented me. Seth Bernstein, at the age of 18 or whatever, told me I will never make it. I will never be anything. I'll never amount to anything, because the individual that he saw in that chair right then would never, ever be something. And then he saw me a few years later. He was like, man, I eat all of my words. I'm very proud of you. So that's why I'll mention, because this is a humble man. This man did the best he could do with what he saw at the very time. And then afterwards, when he saw that there was a change, that something had changed, he recognized that. And unlike many people who decide that they're just going to be so ego driven that they are right, even when they are wrong, and they can see the writing on the wall, they're just going to go ahead, don't be a Darius. Listen, and I'm talking about biblically, y'all. I ain't talking about Darius down the street. Don't be that, because biblically, when you see that writing on the wall, your time is up. It just is what it is. There's nothing much more you can do about that. Listen, there's a quote, and I want to pull this quote because I felt like I ran right back into that quote, and and it was by Susie Casman, and it said, "Ignorance is not bliss; it is the kiss of death." So if you want to be kissed by death, continue to be ignorant. Go on with your bad self. You want to kiss death? You want to kiss death? Continue to be ignorant. The Bible teaches us that a fool can die before his time. So if you got a certain amount of years in your life, you can die earlier by being foolish. Keep doing foolish things. Keep doing foolish things. What we are talking about here is teaching our youth, our young people, how to make wise decisions. Yeah. Because if we can give them knowledge and understanding, then they will come looking for that wise counsel. That's what Mike was just talking about, Proverbs 1:5. And maybe they don't go to you, but you have to provide it, because children at that age are learning themselves. So they're not always forthright. Oh, come on, let me just run in there and talk to dad, because XYZ has happened. Or let me talk to mom because these things have happened. You got to be the watchman on the tower. You got to be the man on the mountain. You got to be the Noah of your household, men.
Yep.
God is telling you it's going to rain. It doesn't matter whether or not people believe in you. Mike just told y'all about my philosophy. If it fits, it shifts. But the thing about it is, when you give something, that's it. You got no control over it. Let it go. Even if it is your own child. It is what it is. You got to let them grow with that thing. Yep. And I guarantee you, this is a guarantee. I'll put my guarantee on this thing, put my stamp on this thing. If you give your child the right thing, the right advice, it will go into their heart, because at this age, around that 11, 12, it'll go into their heart. But you got to give it to them with love, with compassion, with empathy, with knowledge, with understanding. But you just got to give it to them in a way that they understand, my mom or my dad is giving me something because they just absolutely love me. And even if they show you that day disrespect, disdain, that thing is growing in their heart. That's my guarantee. It's growing in their heart. Keep nurturing that seed. Keep nurturing that plant. Keep nurturing those roots, because those roots, that seed becomes roots. Those roots become a sprout. That sprout becomes a tree. And that tree eventually one day will be so strong that the birds of the air can rest in the boughs, and that the creatures of the field can rest themselves underneath the shade. It becomes a symbol of life and of everlasting. That's what we have to create. Men, let's get it.
Let's get it. Yeah, and I'm loving it. You see the proverb of it: train up a child in the way he should go. When he is old, he will not depart from it.
There it is. Good job. Well done.
Tell you what. I'll tell you what.
Tell me what.
You're training them. I'm telling the people, whether intentionally, unintentionally, lack of that father in the household, just coming from my experience. I'm watching that, and I'm learning from that. And Joe spoke about lucidity a little bit, a lot earlier in the show. We spoke about lucidity, and people, if you haven't had it, and let me look at that intelligibility, clarity of expression. Some of us are at adulthood and we still don't have it. Some of us have reached this stage in our lives and we still don't have it. But guess what? It's never too late. It's never too late. Now is the time, and it comes from these conversations. You all can't imagine the amount of clarity that I've gotten in the last couple of years. The amount of clarity that you get in the last couple of months from us having these shows, the amount of clarity we have from having these conversations. Sometimes we're thinking on these things and they're just jumbled up in our minds. And once we get it out, and then you have someone like Joe, like which I do as an accountability, to work through these thoughts, to work through these emotions, to work through these different experiences, etc. A lot of things become clear. And then you also start to see the growth in it. I think last week we spoke about some growth that I was having at this tender age of 39 that I am. The growth that the growth that I'm having, because me and the brother had a conversation. We mentioned it briefly before, and then I look back on it, and man, I'm telling you the amount of peace and joy that I had because we had this growth. It was a growth moment. It's God grooming me for whatever it is that it is, the direction that He wants me to go. And it took me having the conversation with the brother to actually realize it. It came out from his mouth to mine because I needed to hear that. I needed to hear that because sometimes you don't see it. You can't see the forest. You can't see the forest through the trees.
You can't see the building because of the city.
Right. You're in it. But when you have someone telling you, okay, well, this is where you are, and man, can you imagine? You already made it. You're almost out. You're almost there. So, man, this time has. I'm enjoying this conversation. I don't think it necessarily went the way that we envisioned it. the way that we envisioned it when we first brought it up and when we were first thinking about it a week ago, and even somewhat in the pre-meeting that we had. But I'm glad that it went just the way that it needed to go, and I'm hoping that you all took something from it, because this is very impactful. We're moving in a certain direction. The train is moving.
Train is moving. The train is moving.
The train is get on board. There's room. There's room. There's room, and there's work to be done.
And there's work. There's work.
There's work to be done.
A final thought from me for these men is Isaiah 58:1. It said, "Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and shew thy people their transgressions and the house of Jacob their sins." So the most important piece of that right now, and giving light to what we're talking about, is speak up. Don't hide your voice. Yeah. Speak up in such a way that everybody will hear you like a trumpet. Speak up. Tell your children. Strengthen your children. Mm-hmm. Do it, and do it now. You think you may have an opportunity later, but do it now.
Yes.
I'll never forget. I told some of the young people that I told my children. I told my godchildren. I said, in this house, I will raise you, and I don't care what anybody else says or does. If you're wrong, I'm going to bring it to you. That's it. And I said, because there was an issue where, we got this big issue where they say, people say, well, don't punish your children. Then they say, don't spank your children. Then they say, just don't do all these things. Just put them in a corner or something like that. Listen, you need to train your child.
Yep.
Don't kill your child. Train them.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to give anyone a specific tip on how they do that. But what I'm saying is there needs to be change. Mm-hmm. And you can't create change, but you can be an impact on their life. And if you do your impact right, if you do like what Mike was saying, and you're being aware of your children, you're being aware of your community, then you will, and you desire to progress. You desire, like he was talking about wise parents counsel. If you desire to, then when you don't know, you will seek unto wise counsel and you will learn more methods to impact your children. This is what you will do. This is what I am doing. Just like Mike is my business model. If I run into a roadblock, hey, Mike, let me tell you what I'm doing. I don't ask him for nothing. Just, hey, Mike, let me tell you what I'm doing. And Mike's gonna tell me something else. He's gonna say, I love your progress. He likes to season things with grace. I love your progress. If you just, and there here it comes. Sometimes it cut me up, sometimes it doesn't. But like I tell my barber, Shorty, shout out to Shorty. I can tell my barber, Shorty, y'all don't start filling up the chair because I shouted him out now. But fill up the chair, just make sure I get my seat. But like I tell Shorty, I say, I love the alcohol because that's the part that burns. It means it was done right. You cut my hair and you edge me up, you put that blade and make it nice and crisp, put that alcohol on it. I want to feel the burn because I know it's been done right. You need to know it's been done right, y'all. The word of God is sharper than a two-edged sword. It cuts going in, cuts coming out, has the ability to separate marrow from bone, has the ability to separate thought from intent. When you start to understand that is beneficial, you start to take criticism with a different light.
Yeah.
Now you understand what lucidity is. It's clarity, the intelligible. I love it, man. I'm good, man.
Yeah, I'm good too, man. This was definitely time well spent, people. We each and every Friday at 6:30, we're here, Community Beacon. Come get this knowledge. Come get this knowledge. Mondays, check me out, 9 o'clock. We're having that conversation. Wednesday, 12:30. Starts with me. We're having a conversation. We are having the conversations, man. We're having conversations. Love you guys. We will see you next week.